the ongoing conversation about the college football playoff and college football and where we are. I want to make sure when you listen to Game Time each morning, you feel like, okay, now I know where we are. We're in the know. Couple things. Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports tweeted this on Friday, Jack. A memo. This is a tweet from Ross Dellinger. And a memo sent today, this would be Friday, to members of the Presidential Committee on College Sports. The memo indicates that a bill between Senators Ted Cruz and Maria Cantwell, which would be a landmark bipartisan piece of legislation governing college athletics, is expected to be introduced as soon as this week, or next week, which would be this week. Interesting. Keep an eye on that. So that's happening in Washington, D.C. That would be the SCORE Act conversation that we've had. So we'll follow that, and we can expect some fireworks in that conversation over the next few weeks. But you can also expect over the next 3 weeks major fireworks at the spring meetings, because we just told you the ACC just wrapped up their spring meetings last week and voted in full support of a 2014 playoff format that we've debated ad nauseum. The Big Ten spring meetings in L.A. are this week. The SEC's spring meetings are in Destin the following week, coming out of Memorial Day at Sandestin. And then the Big 12 meetings wrap up in 3 weeks, but the big fireworks are going to be in L.A. and then on the coast of the West Coast and then the West Coast of Florida, because that's going to be the real conversation, because those two control how the playoff goes. We've told you many times, 2024, they signed a memo all off. Now, look, if the SCORE Act comes in and things change from the federal level, it could affect some of these conversations. At the same time, they're moving forward, and it's the SEC and the Big Ten who vote on the college football playoff format. And they were at loggerheads back in December, or in January, and so nothing got done. And now here we are in May, and the Big Ten wants a 2014 playoff. The SEC is not moving off of 16. And how is that going to play out is anybody's guess. Now, let me play you this, Jack. As I've said on Game Time here many times, I think we're going to 24. I think prepare yourself, whether you like it or not, we're going to 24 teams. But on his podcast, SEC Mike, Mike, SEC Mike, the very popular podcaster who covers SEC football, he talked to Matt Hayes of the Sporting News, and he made a pretty bold claim that he thinks this is going to be a battle. This is going to be like the college football version of the Strait of Hormuz or something at some point. Here we go. I mean, this is about what's going to happen between the SEC and the Big Ten over the next 2 weeks. Here is Matt Hayes of Sporting News.
And even if we do get more Georgia, Florida State type games, what the hell's the point if the loser's fine and the winner, doesn't need it for their resume?
I feel like this is all just like,
this is Matt Hayes.
I know no other way to say this. Just like mental masturbation right now. We are not going to 24 teams because the SEC is not getting out of their stance. They will not do it. They're now at the point where they're like, all right, we're Sparta. We're 300. You guys are the Persian Empire, and we're going to win. That's where they are right now. They're not getting rid of their championship game, which is the fabric of their conference. They're not going to 24 because they don't want to go to 24. If you think that Greg Sankey doesn't remember that when he and John Swafford and there was two others. I think it was the Notre Dame AD, and there was one other person that was originally set out to do the 12-team playoff, come up with the 12-team playoff, and they came up with it, and then the Big Ten did that little alliance thing to scuttle it for a year and a half. If you don't think Sankey remembers that, you got to be out of your mind. If you don't think he remembers kind of the unwritten deal where if you guys go to 9 conference games, right? You guys just go to 9 conference games, okay? And then if you go to 9 conference games, and you agree to 16-team playoff, then we'll make sure that strength of schedule becomes a real legitimate factor in the college football selection committee process. Meanwhile, you got Texas winning 3 top 10 games last year. They lost 3, no doubt about it. But if you are going to say that strength of schedule is a high priority, what are we doing right now? So if you don't think the SEC remembers all of that, and if you think they're going to forget that, you're out of your mind.
All right, so there's Matt Hayes. And very interesting comments. This is why I'm saying the next 2 weeks, I assume I know what we're going to get at the Big Ten meetings in Los Angeles, which is just a full rubber stamping of their 24-team format that they've got the support of the Big 12 and the ACC and the AFCA, which is the American Football Coaches Association, which will be interesting within the SEC. Are they united? Because that's going to be the question in Destin, Jack. Is the SEC united on what Matt Hayes just said? I know Greg Sankey is dug in, and he's exactly right about everything he said, that we've been the ones that have been conceding to things to be a good team player As he said, and remember when the Big Ten, they did the alliance thing? Remember when you had the Big Ten getting with the ACC and going the alliance?
That was fun.
That fell apart because then the Big Ten bailed out of that thing. But the SEC doesn't, that's what he's saying, is they don't forget all this. You told us to go to 9 because you were going to be good with 16. Well, now we've gone to 9, and now you're not good with 16.
Stop making concessions for you.
When do we stop acquiescing to everyone else? Now, the question is, the Big Ten's now the big dog.
Right.
They make the most money. They've won the last 3 national championships.
They have the most teams.
It's
the Big Ten and the Pac-12. That's still sort of an alliance.
So to suggest, again, you follow the SCORE Act in D.C. and then these 2 meetings, it's going to be fireworks, y'all. I don't pretend to know how it's going to go. But I have been an advocate of the 2014 playoff. You know that, Jack, and I know you're not. Can I say one other thing on a different angle to the 2014 playoff of why I like it? Hey, number one, it gets rid of conference title games. I mean, that's the number one thing. I would, as I've said, if 16 got rid of conference title games, I'd be for 16. But again, it's about math and numbers. It's been money. They can't get rid of the conference title games without creating enough revenue to cover what they're giving up, because those games don't mean much. But I do like we're 300, we're the Persian Empire. That's got to get
some ancient Greek history. You're talking about language.
I'm going to put a name on this: the playoff industrial complex. Okay.
Oh no!
So everything he just said, when we went from the 4 to the 12,
yeah,
and now we're going bigger. What we've changed is not just the dynamics of of how you determine a champion, and I think that's better. You know, the 10 seed almost won it this year, the 6 seed won it the first year. I've said that. But the playoff industrial complex has changed the dynamics of what constitutes a meaningful season for a high majority of college football. Let me use 3 examples in this: Texas, Texas State, and Texas Tech. Can we put those out there, Jack, and have a conversation? So Texas, if they had a 9-3 season like last year and had to go to the Citrus Bowl, that's a bad season, right? Even though they beat 3 top 10 teams. That's just a bad season, underachievement. And they didn't go to the playoffs. Texas State, when they made the first ever bowl game and won it a couple years ago, that was program changing, just to qualify and go to a bowl game. Massive boost for the university. Enrollment, boosters fired up. G.J. Kinney's this hot coach. Now they're in the Pac-12. And that was built on winning 7 games and getting to a bowl game. Well, guess what's going away with the playoff industrial complex? Bowl games. They're going away. So you're going to say if you stay at 12, there's only 12 teams that get to have a successful season. Use Texas Tech as an example. Texas Tech, for a long time in their existence as a football program, winning 8 or 9 games and beating either Texas or Texas A&M was a great season. And going to one of the bowl games that are going to cease to exist here pretty soon, that's how the season needed to go. I mean, that was a great calibrated season for them if they did, right? They would go play in the Alamo Bowl, or they could go play in the, But for Texas, that was terrible, to go to the Texas Bowl or the Alamo Bowl a few times. Not good. Point being that, with the shift of where we are, the conversation in college football's playoff, the era has damaged and threatens to destroy, that's just the high majority of the teams who can't even celebrate a 9-3 season because there's not a bowl game for them to go to now. I mean, what constitutes a good season at that point? That's what this has damaged. And I do like that we have a playoff now, but it's now become the center of everything. And it's the 12 teams, and those are the games everybody watches. Everybody opts out of the bowl games, the players included, and the coaches jump ship and go to different places, and everybody's getting ready to get in the portal. So with ESPN as the college football playoff exclusive rights holder, that's helped promote and build this hierarchy, and they have it through 2031-32. It's not just broadcasting the sport. It now defines what a good and a great season means. And it's leaving 85% of the programs out from any type of reward to a solid season within that program's dynamic. And so I do think going to 24 teams does allow that. And I would say this, back to my example of Texas State. When the ACC voted last week in unanimous to vote for the 24 team side, it was Kelly Damphousse, who is the president at Texas State, who fired off a tweet that said, 2014 playoff, an idea whose time has come. The current format limits the CFP access for most non-autonomy conferences. This will improve access, which will improve recruiting, retention for teams like Texas State. Done right, a 24-team college football playoff will give them a shot they deserve. Good for the Big 12 and ACC, who both came out in support of it. So again, yes, it feels like it's about letting everybody in and everybody gets a trophy, but it does give the opportunity for teams to still say 9-3 for us was a great season. And we were at least flirting with the 2014 playoff. We were at least playing around with it. And the bowl games that do maintain, we can still go and play in that. We get so hung up on the top 12 and why should a team be in that can't win the playoff. There are a lot of teams that play college football. Even if we split this thing in half, there's still a lot of teams that play college football and want to be rewarded for a good season. And not everybody's good season is based on going 11-1 or 10-0 or 12-0, right? It's about having a good college football season. I do think that needs to be into this conversation of does it open the opportunity for the little guy not to win the thing, but to make it. Like to really take a step forward as a program. Because as much as we didn't like James Madison being in the tournament, that was a huge thing for their program. Tulane, that was a huge thing to be in the 12-team playoff. But the new format probably won't include that. So it opens it up to teams in the top 24, also non-autonomous conferences, as Kelly Dampu says. That is an argument I think needs more conversation. That, yes, it's not just about the big guy. The little guy still has an opportunity. And we have to realize just how much the dynamic has changed in the last 4 or 5 years since we went to 12. And now, whether it's 16 or 24, I would like to see the little guy more included. They're not going to win it, but they get in.
That feels hollow to me.
But what's the other option? They don't get a bowl game now.
Yeah, they do. Is the Armed Forces Bowl going away? Why?
Well, I think because the free market's going to demand it. When you go to 16 or 24, the money's, why are they going to have them? I'm not saying they won't be, some bowl games. But the big ones that are going to be tied into the new playoff format, however it's voted on, I don't know. I'm reading the support from the littler guy too that still want an opportunity to say we had a really great season.
I totally get why the ACC and the Big 12 would want a big 2014 playoff because you can, say we made the playoff when in reality the playoff just got bigger to envelop you. You're still the 20th best team in the country. You were always that. But now you get to say you made the playoff. Now you get to put that on the side of your stadium. Say playoff appearance 2026 when there were teams like, Cincinnati and these small teams that actually did make the playoff when it was 4 teams, and that was a bigger achievement. Well,
and that's what why I read Kelly Dampuse's tweet. Is like he saw it on his own campus of what it meant when they just made a bowl game and won a bowl game. And it led to retention of players, more NIL opportunities, expansion of facilities, and then the ability to, get themselves into the Pac-12 conference because they have a hot shot coach. What he's saying is, if we open it to 24, if given the opportunity, we can continue to grow our program. If you limit access to the top 12 or whatever everybody wants, there's not that because the center of attention is now nobody cares about the bowl games. All anybody pays attention to, players, the agents, the players are the playoff. That's all that matters. Because again, you don't go back too long when going to a really good bowl game and winning that really good bowl game and getting to 10 wins managed like was a really good season. That no longer is the case.
I still think it is for those teams though. Like if Texas State went 9-3 and won an Alamo Bowl, that would be a great season for them.
Well,
because
will the Alamo Bowl exist?
I mean, whatever the equivalent is of the Alamo, because they've won an Armed Forces Bowl and 2 First Responders Bowls.
I'm just looking at the market and trying to figure out if there's going to be if players don't want to play in them, and coaches leave before them, and they're all jumping in the portal in this current system. And again, we got to keep an eye on Washington D.C. and whatever they come with. But at the same time, I just don't know that the bowl games are survivable long. And I'm not just talking about next year. They're going to survive next year. I just think like Kelly Dampus and others are doing it. We're looking 5-10 years down the road of will they even exist down the road?
I just think you're kind of tricking yourself by saying, wow, we had a great season. We made the playoff. When it's like, well, no, the playoff met you at a different point.
Well, I'm not even, because with 24, it's very rare that Texas State could make the playoff, but they can. They can. If you don't include them, they can't. They can't even use it as a carrot. I'm saying, that's why I use Texas Tech as the example. Texas Tech for a long time. If they went 8-4 or 9-3 and beat Texas or Texas A&M, that was awesome.
Pretty good, yeah.
That was the ceiling. That was a great year.
Now the rules have changed and they can just money whip people.
Right. And so now their floor has moved and they've elevated it because they can spend money. That's the whole point. Programs can elevate if you win and if you're rewarded for the wins. And the floor can go up. Texas's ceiling and floor is never changing. That's never going to change. Last year was a pretty good year for a lot of programs to win 9 games and beat three top 10 teams and win a bowl game over a blue blood like Michigan. But at Texas, that was a bad year. It's just not the standard. But that's point being Texas Tech, because the rules changed and they created opportunity to go to 12 teams. Texas Tech was able to use money, improve their roster, and grow. Kelly Tampus and Texas State saying the same thing. If you open it up to more teams, we will be able to raise money, add better talent, and grow as a program. I just put it out there as a conversation piece.